Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So in today's video, I'm going to do part 2 of the story of Grace Millane. And I'll do a recap, a very short recap of sort of what I've talked about in the first part. We'll take up exactly where we left off. So when I started doing the video, recording the video about Grace, I realised there was just too much to put in one video, so I decided to make it into 2 parts. And in this video, so what happened to Grace was Grace, as you can see from the picture, let's have a closer look at her, was a very beautiful 22-year-old girl on the threshold of her life, just finished university, was backpacking, was in New Zealand for 2 weeks on her own, and was doing what many young people do, was exploring, making new friendships on Tinder. And of course, Tinder is the dating app where people can make friends or meet new people for romantic relationships or just for casual relationships. It's an app that's used by many people, and that's what Grace was doing, reaching out to see if she could find somebody to spend some time with, as she was there in New Zealand on her own. And unfortunately for Grace, another person who was also on there was Jesse, who, Jesse, I think it's Samson, but his name doesn't matter. He unfortunately was also there on Tinder. And what Grace did not know about Jesse when she set off to meet him on that fateful day was that Jesse already had convictions for sex offences. And on that day, her birthday eve, the 1st of December, Grace was never heard from after that, from the 2nd of December, when it was her birthday. And her family reached out to her from Wickford, Essex, in the UK, to wish her a happy birthday, etc. And she did not reply. And then when the family, still couldn't get hold of her after a couple of days, they reported her missing to the New Zealand police. And to be fair, the New Zealand police, although they initially thought there may be no foul play suspected, as you do with young people can sort of go missing sometimes because they choose to go radio silent. But they were investigating behind the scenes. And very quickly, by the 8th of December, Jesse was in custody for the murder of Grace. And Jesse, where we left off last time, there was an absolute mountain of CCTV evidence showing Jesse and Grace together, and then showing Jesse coming out of his hotel room with suitcases, and presumably Grace was in one of those suitcases. And the other things we found out was that even when Grace was deceased in Jesse's hotel room, because we saw the CCTV, they went out, they had a drink, looked like they were getting on quite well. You could see that Grace liked Jesse. Jesse's like a Walter Mitty character, and he will have charmed her. He was probably splashing his money around, etc. And she did go back voluntarily to his hotel room with him, and we can see that on the CCTV in the lift, etc. But what happened in the hotel room, that's where everything took a darker turn. And unfortunately, Grace did not come out alive out of that hotel room. So let's chat. So, as it says on the banner, thank you so much, everyone who's subscribed, everyone who likes my videos, anyone who's a member, anyone who's bought me a Ko-fi, sent me super chat, etc., PayPal'd me or sent me a nice email, left a nice message. Thank you so much for your support for my channel. It means everything. And, you know, it helps me to carry on telling stories like Grace's, because victims need their stories to be told. We should never forget their names. You know, there's always another story, another case. And of course, for the families of these victims, there is no other story, no other case. They're the only case that affects, you know, the case that affects them every day when they wake up in the morning is the case of their own particular loved one. And it's just important, you know, this is not a recent case, but it's important that it's remembered, that Grace's name is remembered. And what I'm going to tell you about in this video, we're going to look a little bit at we're going to take up from where we left off in part 1, when Jesse was arrested. And we're going to look a little bit at his interviews, etc., and the sentencing, and the terrible defence that he came up with, which dragged Grace's name through the mud. But then we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about some more positive things that have come out of Grace's life and death. How her mum has, you know, started her own charity to help victims of domestic violence. How she does various challenges to help raise money for people, for victims of domestic violence. So we're going to look at that as well. And, you know, it's humbling for me, as I always say, you know, the families of victims, how they cope, I don't know. But especially when they turn everything around and they make it positive, she's not going to let Jesse take away that memory. You know, she's created a positive memory of her daughter, not just, you know, the woman that was murdered in New Zealand. So we're going to talk about that as well. So that's important. So we're going to go right to where we started. Now, if you haven't watched part 1 of this video, I would definitely recommend that you watch that first, because it'll give you all the background, what that led up, you know, to this murder of Grace by Jesse. And we're going to, if I remember, I'll link it up in the description box. So that, you know, as I say, it would be a good idea to watch that first to give you the background. But I think, you know, you still, even if just watching this video, because I'm going to tell you exactly where we left off, we're going to go to, we'd got to the point on the CCTV. It's mountains of CCTV. I mean, this guy, Jesse, he's one of those people who thinks he's so clever, but actually is as thick as anything, because he did not realise, I mean, that you could practically make a film out of the CCTV of Jesse and Grace, because he didn't realise there was CCTV everywhere of him buying cleaning supplies, buying a suitcase to put Grace's body in, buying a spade, etc. CCTV of him and Grace in various bars and restaurants on the night that they met up, CCTV of the actual moment that they met up. You know, that'll be apart from the phone data and everything that the police would have. So this guy felt he was some sort of, you know, criminal mastermind, but of course he wasn't. So, and he started off lying about you know, what had happened between him and Grace, and ended up confessing. Okay, now then, let's see where we'd got to. Sorry. Did have it ready, but of course things disappear. Yeah, so in the previous video, we watched all the CCTV. I'm just going to play right from the end because this is where we'd got to when the police arrived at the hotel that Jesse was staying in, the hotel that he took Grace to, and there were videos of them going up in the lift together, etc. And this is when the police turned up at the hotel. So Grace had been reported missing. Jesse had been out and about doing hiding the body, and he went on a Tinder date, another Tinder date. This is important to remember what sort of man Jesse is when it comes to the time when he's up for parole. I hope that they take all this into account. This guy, while he had the body of a dead girl in his room that he'd murdered, went on another Tinder date. And luckily for that woman, she didn't like him. And that was the end of that. And she said he was creepy and he talked about strange things about burying bodies and stuff like that. So she had the escape of her life and she just made her excuses and went. Because where was he going to take that woman back? Was he thinking of taking her back to the hotel room as well? I mean, how can somebody, you've got to be a special sort of psychopath, haven't you, or sociopath, or you've got to be a special sort of someone who you can go out on another date while you've got the body of your previous Tinder date, only the day before, in your hotel room in a suitcase. I mean, you've got to be a special sort of evil person, haven't you? You've got to be a special sort of twonk to be able to do that, to be able to have the detachment to do that. Anyway, this is where we'd got to on the previous CCTV. This is the hotel. The police have arrived at the hotel to make questions. They must have found CCTV, etc. I don't know how they actually tracked Jesse to this hotel, but, he obviously thought they wouldn't be able to, but they did. So they're in the foyer making enquiries. You can see everyone's, what's going on here? What's going on here? So of course, nobody's got any idea of what's happened to Grace. We saw Jesse come down in the lift with suitcases. It's a hotel. It's not unusual, is it? Nobody's going to notice someone coming out of the lift with suitcases. And they did not know that in fact there was a body of a girl in one of those suitcases. So you can see everyone's quite interested because when the police arrive at your place of work, of course you're going to be interested what's going on. I wonder how they traced him back to that hotel room. Maybe somebody knew him. Maybe they followed the CCTV along to the hotel. Oh. So the police are there. He's not there in his room. They must have told him that. So the police are there waiting for him. And in a moment, we'll see Twonk. Look, here's Twonk. For some reason, he's got a suit on and a waistcoat. He's just about to go back to the hotel. And boom. Watch. Oh, police. He sees the police. So he just turns around casually. Oh, I don't think I'll go in there. Where shall I go? Oh, no, I wasn't going in the hotel. Sorry, I just want to see that. Again, I love to see that. Love that bit. There he is walking into the hotel and then boom, he sees the police. And turns around, stops in his tracks. I just love watching that bit. I love to see the criminals being caught. These twonks, when they realise they're not as clever as they thought they were. I bet he couldn't believe it when he saw the police there in the doorway. Bet he could not believe it. So they must have just gone to the door there and be waiting for him to come back. And here he is. God. Just, it must give you such a sense of satisfaction as a police person. Yep. That sees the police. Oh, shit. Oh, my God. Oh, yeah, just casually. Yeah, I'm not worried. Yeah, I think I'll just, not looking. Just go over here. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll just leg it down this road. He doesn't want to run. He wants to run, but he doesn't want to draw attention to himself. So he's trying to be incognito. But the police are coming. They've seen him. Oh, they're in the foyer there, aren't they? Now, how they realise, I don't know if somebody said, oh, that was him. Or maybe they just saw him out there. I don't know. Maybe one of the hotel staff pointed him out, because then they come out and off they go after him. Yeah, I wonder if that guy pointed him out to them. And they start running after him down the street. Well, the thing is, he can't start running. He knows if he starts running, he's had it. So he's just got to allow himself to be caught. Yeah, and that was the end of Jesse, but he didn't know it yet. So let's go on to the interview. So now we're going to the interview after he's taken into custody. He's still got his waistcoat on, etc.
Tell us about Grace.
So I was talking to Grace on Tinder.
Yeah.
We'd matched on Friday. I saw that we'd matched the next day on Saturday.
So now he comes out with a right load of rubbish, first of all, about what, that he met Grace, because he can't get away from it because they've got the photos there, etc., the CCTV. But basically what he says is, yeah, he met up with Grace, and she went her way and he went his, because he doesn't know yet about the lift photos. So the police, of course, they drip feed these photos, etc. Now, notice that Jesse's face is blanked out, because in the beginning, a suppression order was given of his identity to ensure he had a fair trial. But anyway, everyone ignored this suppression order, especially because this also only counted in New Zealand. Well, of course, Grace was from the UK. So in the UK, everyone was just showing his photo, saying his name. Even Google just came out and, said who he was. And, it caused a bit of consternation at the trial. Oh, he's not getting a fair trial, etc. But they had so much evidence against Jesse, really. The only thing, of course, they didn't have CCTV of was actually what happened in the moment of poor Grace being murdered. Now, this twonk came out with the rough sex defence, said that they'd engaged in rough sex. It was an accident. He went and fell asleep in the shower because he'd had too much to drink. And when he came out, he saw that Grace was deceased. But it was her idea. She wanted the rough sex. Her mother said it was absolute hell to go through, her daughter's name being dragged through the mud. But anyway, they brought in ex-partners to give testimony, and they testified that was not something that Grace was interested in or had ever been, asked to be done, or etc. So it was all a load of cojones. But, her poor family had to sit through that, listen to this twonk saying how, oh, yeah, it was Grace, it was her idea, and she got on top of me and she showed me what she wanted me to do, put her hands around my neck, and then he did it back because she asked for it. Just foul. I mean, I think it's just as bad as killing someone, isn't it? Then trying to blacken them and make excuses instead of just owning up to what you did. And then, of course, it transpired that Jesse had a lot of other convictions for, nothing to do with Grace's death. In fact, he had been convicted of 9 total charges of RAPE, sexual violation, threatening to kill, and assault in 2 sexual violence trials before a judge in October and November 2020, before his trial for Grace. And these were independent of Grace's case. So, this guy was just a bomb waiting to happen, wasn't he? Anyway, he was finally allowed to be identified on the 22nd of December 2020 as the Supreme Court of New Zealand rejected his appeal for continued name suppression. Thank God for that. Anyway, let's carry on watching this. So he carries on with his lies.
And then we met at Sky City. And then we decided that we're going up to Andy's Burger Bar, which is on the 1st floor.
Whose idea was it to go to that particular burger place?
Me, because I didn't initially know that she was real.
What do you mean?
Well, there's a lot of... So have you heard of catfish?
No.
So catfishing is where someone uses your profile or uses your photos and pretends to be you and then meets... and you're a completely different person.
Right.
And it's on Tinder, it's all about the way you look.
I bet he's done that a few times, don't you think? You just get that feeling he might have done a bit of catfishing here and there. This guy knows a lot about it, but so at first he didn't think she was real, maybe. Well, Joe, unfortunately, he's quite, he's tall. He's not a bad-looking guy, and I bet he was, he is this Walter Mitter character. Unfortunately, Grace took him at face value, and you could see from the CCTV that she liked him. It's a shame, isn't it? Because she's probably a very trusting girl, and the thing is, when you're trusting, when you've not got anything to hide, if you like, it's difficult to see it in other people. When you're young, as you get older, you get a bit more cynical, don't you? You get a bit more, that's why these twonks, they sort of go for young girls, really, because an older woman wouldn't, even sometimes older men, they go for younger women, and probably the other way around, but I don't think so much. But because older women just know by then that they won't take any rubbish, but young girls are very trusting, and it seems like the nicer they are, the more trusting they are. And you meet someone like this and she's taking him at face value, because that's the sort of person she is.
And so if they use more endearing photos, you're more likely to swipe for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does meeting in a public place sort of protect you from meeting someone who's not as good looking as...
Well, there's security there. So if she wasn't who she said she was, at least in my mind, I'd feel safe.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Meet in a public place, so at least in my mind, I'd feel safe. Oh my God. It's not you who wasn't safe, you absolute twonk. God knows what this guy is thinking. He's very calm, because I just couldn't. Honest to God, I think I would have punched him by now.
Yeah, that's us.
Down there?
Yeah.
Is that before or after?
That is after.
Okay. And where are you guys going now?
So she's going that way, and I'm going across the street.
Where do you walk?
I go down Queen Street. No, I go down Victoria Street.
So he's trying to say now that she goes one way and I go the other way, and then he's trying to pin him down for where he knows exactly where he went, because he's got the CCTV of them with their arms around each other getting into the lift in the hotel. did he really feel they wouldn't have any CCTV from the hotel? He must know that there's CCTV in the lift.
Street, straight down to the bottom,
Yeah.
and then hang a left, and I head towards the viaduct.
You go to the viaduct a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've kind of walked in a bit of a funny direction if you were planning to go to the viaduct.
What's the direction I normally go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I'm just sort of saying, like, if you were planning to go to the viaduct.
I normally go down Queen Street and then cross at the bottom of Queen Street, go through the containers, and then walk along the wharf.
Yeah.
So he's talking the biggest load of cojones that this guy's ever heard. He knows. He knows he's got the CCTV of him in the lift. He knows exactly that he didn't walk on his own. He went with Grace. They went back to the hotel room. He's seen it all. He knows all of it. And this is just this guy. God.
Is there a particular reason you were going to do that?
I feel safer down that way.
Feel safe, Jeff.
I don't know. It's a lot safer for me to be walking down that way than walking down the back streets.
Well, he's very concerned about his own safety, isn't he? Yeah, he feels safer that way.
Okay.
God. So this is the sort of bilge, if you like, that he was talking. Got another video somewhere. Yeah. Have a look at this. So then he starts to think, oh, hang on a minute, am I being arrested? So after the policeman leaves him in there, I don't know if it was after that that interview or not, but this is another bit of footage.
Did you kill Grace Millane? Okay. Jesse Kempson, you're under arrest for the murder of Grace Millane.
The British backpacker went missing on the eve of her 22nd birthday in December 2018. A week later, the man she'd been on a Tinder date with that night, Jesse Kempson, was arrested for her murder. In his first interview with Detective Ewan Settle 2 days earlier, he lied about what had happened.
How did the evening?
He's got such evil eyes, hasn't he? He's got those evil eyes. So by the time this video was released, the suppression order had been lifted, so we can actually see him. We don't want to see him really because it's horrible, but people should see his face. People should see his face because one day this guy will be out.
Pan out.
Yeah, pretty good.
But the investigation team was already closing in on the then 26-year-old.
We actually don't know if she's been murdered or not yet. She may be alive and well.
Okay.
But she might also be dead. Okay? And it could be that you've done it.
Moments later, after being left alone in the interview room,
he can't stop checking out his appearance. He's in the mirror. He's pulling his, Jesse, those clothes are too small for you. You should try getting some clothes that actually fit you. Then you wouldn't have to keep messing around with them. He's constantly checking his appearance. He's murdered. He's murdered a girl. And all he's bothered about is, does my bum look big in this? Well, yeah, Jesse, your bum does look big in that.
Hey, I just want to ask a question. Am I being arrested for something I didn't do?
You haven't been arrested.
Oh.
Am I being arrested for something I didn't do? Well, no, because you did do it. But then the guy says to him, you've not been arrested. And he goes, oh, I'm so relieved. God, he must be, honestly, I'm sorry, these people, just not only that they are absolute twonks, what he did to Grace, he stole her future. He stole her future and he stole her away from her family. Just foul what he did, and he does not give two shits, basically, except for the fact that he might go to prison. He hasn't got any empathy with Grace. He should be heartbroken. If he's killed her by accident, he should have been on the phone to the ambulance, shouldn't he? He should have been straight away on the phone to the get somebody there who might be able to save her. Should have been straight, giving her the dignity if she couldn't have been saved, for a family to know what had happened to her. It was her birthday the following day. And no, instead, he was just thinking of himself. He doesn't care about anything but himself. He's so detached.
Oh, sorry. Holy shit. Okay.
Brought into the Auckland Central Police Station a second time, Jesse Kempson changed his story.
You've indicated that you're willing to speak to us about the events of last Saturday. Is that correct?
So, first of all, he continued sort of denying everything, and he was released, but then he was brought in again. I think that was, I don't know what changed it, why they didn't keep him in custody that first time. Now he's got a different story.
Correct?
Yes.
Tell me what happened last Saturday.
From the beginning.
At his 3-week trial in the High Court in Auckland late last year, the jury watched CCTV footage of Jesse Kempson and Grace Millane on their Tinder date in central Auckland, bar hopping, drinking, and eventually kissing. They went back to Kempson's apartment at the City Life Hotel, walking into the lobby together, Kempson's arm around Ms. Millane's shoulders, the last time she was seen.
You see, it's that arm around the shoulder again. I just don't like that. I know he's tall and maybe it's harder for it. Why aren't they holding hands, or he's got his arm around her waist? Look, it's like he owns her. I've started to see that as a real red flag. See it so many times with abusers of all sorts of different kinds. That arm around the neck. You're mine, you belong to me. He's taken her in there. That girl is never going to walk out that hotel alive. That's it. That's it for her. She doesn't realise what she's walking into.
Seen alive. The Crown said Kempson strangled Ms. Millane to death, but the defence argued her death was an accident during consensual rough sex.
So yeah, this is his defence. Consensual rough sex. So it's so consensual that in the morning he went off and bought a suitcase to put her inside her body. God, but it's all on CCTV. Honestly, if you watch part 1 of this, the whole CCTV more or less is played.
CCTV footage from the following morning showed Kempson buying a suitcase and cleaning products, hiring a carpet cleaning machine, picking up a rental car, and driving out to West Auckland to buy a shovel. Kempson said he panicked, putting her body in a suitcase and burying it in a shallow grave in the Waitakere Ranges.
So he buried her in a shallow grave, bless her. So he went out the area to buy these things. How did he? But does he not know about phone data? So I would imagine what happened was because he went out of Auckland to buy the spade. So how would they know to go to that store to get that CCTV? Well, they had his phone data, and that's like David Konopovich, David Knezovich and Anna. They've got his phone data. They know he went from Serbia to Spain, went to the Ferreteria, which is like the hardware store in Spain, bought black spray paint and duct tape. This is a case now in Madrid that's, Anna, David Knezovich will be on trial soon for the kidnap of his wife. They've not charged him with murder yet because they haven't found her body. But it turns out he drove all the way from Serbia to Madrid, murdered his wife, it seems, brought her out in a suitcase, out of the flat in a suitcase. But the police, so far, haven't found her body. They're retracing his steps. They'll be checking everywhere he stopped, according to his phone data. And it's a big area to search. I'm hopeful that sooner or later they will find Anna. In the meantime, he's been arrested. He's in because he decided to go to Florida, which is where they lived when they lived together, and was arrested immediately. Anyway, that's another case, which I'll try and remember to link into the description, but because I think there's a relevance here with this case. It's people thinking they can get away with things, and he thought nobody would know he'd been in Madrid. He'd said he'd never been. He didn't go. His lawyer was all over YouTube, court TV, etc., saying no. He why would he go to Madrid? But anyway, it turns out he was there. He was there buying duct tape and black spray paint, and then he went and black spray painted the CCTV camera in Anna's apartment block. They think they know it all. Took his hire car. When he took it back, he'd had the windows tinted. Who does that on a hire car? Also, it changed the number plate. And they thought the police wouldn't notice. I mean, if it wasn't so deadly serious, it would be almost funny, because how stupid can you be? Anyway, here's another one. So he's stupid as well. Thinks he's clever, but he's stupid.
But the jury didn't believe him.
Do you find the defendant, Jesse Kempson, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
In February, Jesse Kempson was jailed for life with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years.
Now, jail for life with a minimum period of 17 years is only 26. So that to me is ridiculous. But of course, this is what it comes down to. I know it comes down to the fact they don't know what actually happened in that room. But all the lies he told and his actions in trying to hide the body, etc., they should all make his sentence bigger. 17 years for someone who's 26. So 36, 43, he'll be in the prime of his life. If he gets out, of course. I mean, he's got to, pass the parole board. I'm not saying that he will. But I just think, imagine that coming up for Grace's family. When that comes nearer the time, they'll be dreading it, won't they? Because this man is a danger to women, because it's not only what he did to Grace, and it turns out he had all those other convictions as well, or all those other offences. This man, the key needs throwing away.
At Kempson's sentencing, Grace Millane's mother, Gillian, delivered her victim impact statement to the court via audio-visual link from her home in England.
On a daily basis, I torment myself over what you did to my Grace. The terror and pain she must have experienced at your hands. As a mother, I would have done anything to change places with her. I sit full of guilt, knowing I couldn't help her. But I should have been there. She died terrified and alone in a room with you.
After the sentencing, the detective inspector...
Yeah, now at the beginning of the first part of this that I did, I read out a poem. I'm going to read it out at the end. Thing is, when you have to let your children go, to pursue their dreams for good reasons, they go off. These days, a lot of young people go travelling, don't they? And, why shouldn't they? They should be able to go travelling. They should be able to go everywhere and be safe. Boy or girl, man or woman, you should not have to worry about your safety. And that twonk going on about his safety. Anyway, what happens in these cases is everybody's left with the guilt. Everybody's left with the guilt except the twonk who actually deserves the guilt. Who does, he's trying to make out he's not guilty and push it all onto Grace. They should get an extra 10 years for that, I think. That poor woman.
inspector who led the investigation into Grace Millane's disappearance, Scott Beard, told Checkpoint he thought it was inevitable Jesse Kempson would kill someone.
I've always thought that if it wasn't Grace, it was going to be someone.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a psychologist, so I can't talk.
He was escalating, wasn't he? He'd committed these, he wasn't taking no for an answer. See, once he had Grace in that hotel room, and I'm sure Grace was prepared to have, she probably wanted to have consensual sex with him. She could tell that she liked him. She went up there voluntarily, and why shouldn't she? But then when things took a darker turn, when he's, when he's asked for rough sex, maybe didn't even bother asking. Maybe just started doing it, got carried away, he'd been drinking. It was just like this guy says, it was a matter of time, really. Unfortunately, it was Grace, but if it wasn't Grace, it would be some other poor woman, because Jesse was a bomb waiting to explode.
About psychological profile, but what we do know is he's a liar. A number of times we proved he lied to the police. He lied to others.
The lapsing of name suppression means it can now be revealed Jesse Kempson had other victims, women he'd abused before he met Grace Millane. Kempson was convicted of a raft of sexual violation offences after 2 judge-alone trials in the High Court at Auckland in October and November this year.
So before his murder trial, he was tried for these other offences, judge-only trials. I don't know why that is. Maybe he asked for that. I don't know. And maybe you've got the right to ask for it in New Zealand. This wasn't his first rodeo, as they say, but it was the first time, as far as we know, that he actually killed somebody. But luckily, because I think the police did well with this. I think, luckily he was a total idiot that didn't realise about the CCTV and things. But, luckily he made lots of mistakes, and now he's in prison and he can't do anything for 17 years anyway. So let's just hope he never gets out.
Woman, an ex-girlfriend, went to the police and told them he had subjected her to sustained and escalating physical, sexual, emotional and financial abuse. When her case went to trial, she said her heart dropped when she saw the first blurred images of Kempson on the news. She said she felt guilty about Millane's death.
I didn't want to bring up my past again.
Here's another one feeling guilty. His poor ex-girlfriend, because of what she went through with him. She feels guilty. Everyone feels guilty except that twonk.
But I also wanted the truth to be out about who Jesse is and the pattern of behaviour and how this whole thing could have been avoided.
Trouble with men like Jesse. I will leave that picture up a bit. Of Grace. The problem with men like Jesse is they start off so nice. It's probably love bombing, paying for everything, telling lies. At first you don't know that they're telling lies. And as I say, young girls especially. And if they're not liars, they don't just don't realise. They take people at face value. And that girlfriend of his, ex-girlfriend of his, she won't have just met him and then he started abusing her. That will have happened like a drip, 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 chip, chip, chip over time. And before you know where you are, you're sort of in this relationship and you don't know how to get out of it. And that's the positive thing that Grace's mum, when I show you about this charity that she started up to help women suffering from domestic abuse. That's something positive that's come out of this whole thing. Because often women who are being abused, they just don't know how to get out of their relationship, and men.
It really could have.
Jesse Kempson was found guilty of 8 charges relating to that woman, including 2 of sexual violation and 1 of threatening to kill, and jailed for 7.5 years. At the other trial, he was found guilty of raping another woman he had met on Tinder in a motel. When the verdict was delivered, Kempson lashed out at Justice Venning.
Holy shit, mate. You have no reason to convict me. You're full of shit.
When Kempson was sentenced a few weeks later to 3.
Oh, you've got no reason to convict me. You're full of shit. Then we see the real Jesse, don't we? You know, not the guy in the suit that's too tight. Being nice and, oh God, I've not been arrested. I'm so worried about my safety. Then we see the real Jesse. Oh, you've got no right to convict me. You're full of shit. You're the one who's full of shit, Jesse. You're so full of shit. You know, really, you just need flushing down the toilet. Horrible man. Horrible, horrible man.
2.5 years in jail, Justice Venning had this to say.
It's apparent from your response to the verdict of the court you do not accept the offending and you have no remorse or insight into it.
Justice Venning also cited a cultural report about Jesse Kempson that was submitted to the court by his lawyer.
Yeah, no remorse. So it's poor Jesse. Poor Jesse, you're infringing on his safety. You know how concerned he is about his safety, even though he doesn't give a shit about anybody else's.
He said while it was difficult to see any link between Kempson's disconnection from his culture and his offending, it offered insights into his troubled upbringing.
Your parents separated when you were 3 years old.
Oh, boo-hoo. His parents separated when he was 3 years old. That's why. That's why he's been abusing all these women and murdered Grace. Oh, yeah, because his parents separated when they were 3. Oh, for God's sake, I cannot bear these sort of excuses for twonks. People get dragged up sometimes. They suffer the worst childhood you can imagine, and they do not go out and do things like this. This guy is a complete twonk. And just looking at the faces of these two guys, because they're talking about presumably his background is Maori. I don't know, but if you were a Maori, you would be angry at anybody even bringing that into it. He's a twonk. It's nothing to do with his culture, his heritage, his parents splitting up when he was 3 months old. He is a horrible, horrible person. Full stop. You know, how many people's parents split up and they go through hell? Or how many people never know their parents? Or how many people are abused by their parents? How many people suffer terrible childhoods but do not do this? Stop using these things as an excuse. Surprised I didn't use mental health. He's got mental health issues.
Your father was at times violent towards you, although I note he has now written in support of you. Your mother rejected you. That may go some way towards explaining your attitude towards women.
Jesse Kempson is appealing his conviction and sentence in both.
Oh, sorry. Can't be blaming the mother as well. Is it the mother's fault because she rejected him? Maybe she rejected him because she knew he was horrible right from the day. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that because, but that this just makes me angry. It's not the mother's fault. It's not the father's fault. I'm not saying he had the best upbringing. Maybe he had a terrible upbringing, but so do a lot of people. Put the responsibility on the person. I think this is a big problem in our society at the moment. No one's encouraged to take individual responsibility for their actions. There's always someone to blame. It's the mental health, it's the financial circumstances, it's the upbringing, it's with him, he was trying to blame Grace, wasn't he? He was trying to victim blame, saying she wanted it. Not only she was participating in rough sex, but she instigated it. This has got to stop. People have got to accept the responsibility for their actions. Now, there may be mitigating circumstances, but the book stops with you when you do something wrong. People know the difference between right and wrong. Doesn't matter if you've been abused or not. You know what's right and what's wrong. So many people that are abused one way or another, physically or sexually, they do not go on to do it themselves. They know what's right and what's wrong. He knows what's right and what's wrong, whatever his upbringing was. Just stop already with all this blaming everybody except the perpetrator makes me so angry.
Sexual violation cases. His bid to overturn his conviction and sentence for murdering Grace Millane was rejected by the Court of Appeal last week. He has already indicated he's likely to appeal that to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, he's not, he's still appealing, trying to. Anyway, he's been refused every appeal. So.
O te hōtaka o te ahi, ko Sarah Robson, aho.
Oh, I think that was a bit of Maori she was speaking then. Okay. So, yeah, if I was a Maori as well, I'd be annoyed. Look at his eyes. That eye there. It's all in that eye, it's those weird eyes again. There's something wrong. Some people are just born with something wrong. That's my belief. I'm sorry, I believe it. I'm 100% certain. Some people, doesn't matter what, he could have had a fantastic upbringing. Look at ones that have had fantastic upbringing but still go on and do these twonky things. It's not to do with the upbringing. It's to do with something wrong in that. Look at the coldness in that right eye there. Something wrong with this man. It'll never change. Can't change. It's in him. He's a danger to women and he always will be. Okay, now. So, as if this family had not had enough tragedy, shortly after the trial, Grace's father, David, was diagnosed with cancer. And more tragedy struck this family when he died in November 2020. So, let's have a look, because a bench was... let's have a look at the bench. So, yeah, Heartbreak as the father of the murdered backpacker dies. Well, I hope they've been reunited in heaven. I really do. I do believe that. So, David Millane, who was a constant presence at her killer's trial in Auckland, was diagnosed with a serious illness after returning to the UK. I think this is another victim, in my opinion, of Jesse, because, cancer can be caused by trauma, etc. We are heartbroken. He was 62 from Wickford in Essex, and he died earlier this week, whenever this, let's see, so 2020. Just after the trial. So he's very quick from his diagnosis. He probably gave up. Some people do give up. Anyway, we are heartbroken by the loss of David. He will be deeply missed by his family, friends, and all that knew him, the Millane family said in a statement. Now, there's a picture of the family. So look at this family decimated, ripped apart by that man, by Jesse. There's a photo of happier times. And now, these two big presences there missing, Grace and her dad. I hope they're together. So the death was announced by the New Zealand police. Detective Inspector Scott Beard said the force had worked closely with the Millane family after the death of their much-loved and cherished daughter, Grace. After Grace's disappearance, her father flew to New Zealand and appeared in a missing persons appeal to plead for information on her whereabouts. And this was the statement he made when Jesse was convicted. So sad, isn't it? So very sad. So now we're going to look at something positive. There is some positivity in Grace's story, and that's what we're going to look at. Now, sorry, I want to show you the bench first. So a bench was unveiled in Billericay A bench has been unveiled at a pub in memory of a murdered backpacker and her father. Grace's mother, Gillian, said the bench at the family's local pub was a work of art. Now, you might think a bench is not much, but it's a big thing, isn't it? It's a big thing, just a memory to celebrate their lives, because we've got to celebrate people's lives. We can't, just because somebody departs from this world, especially when they've left a good legacy. Nice people, their contribution to the world was positive. Anyway, Gillian, Grace's mother, said, "Thank you doesn't seem to be enough for all the kindness and support everyone has shown me and my family over the last few years. But a massive thank you to each and every one of you." And this is Gillian. She's how she puts a smile on her face, I don't know. But there she is, unveiling the bench at the local pub. So she cut the ribbon on the bench, and there it is. So there's a bit of positivity. She added, "I'm truly blessed to live in such a lovely village with such an amazing group of people. To go from a simple hello when I'm walking around the village to you all coming together, creating something so beautiful for David and Grace." So the bench at the Fox and Hounds in Billericay has the names Grace and David Millane on one side and the quote, "Live your life with a smile," on the other. Sarah Hood from the pub, who helped organise the tribute, said, "You may not be with us, but you will not always now have a space at our table." And Gillian Millane recently gained an OBE for her charity work. Now, we're going to look at the charity in a minute. Now, I don't believe in honours, but these are, people like this who do something. What I don't believe is like the honours for, that are used in politics, like to bribe people, or, people donate to a certain party and then they get made a lord or a dame or a bloody baroness. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. But these kind of things, that when people actually have done something positive and they deserve it, I'm all for that. I don't believe in, it's the order of the British Empire. I think they should change the names of these things. I don't like the royal family, and I don't like all that sort of rubbish. But I think Gillian deserved her OBE, and for the charity work that she's done. So she's founded this initiative, Love Grace, and this has collected 20,000 handbags and filled them with useful items for domestic abuse victims. Now, I just think this is fantastic, because there's so much that you don't think of. If somebody has to leave their home, because of domestic violence, and people are always saying, "Oh, get out, get out." It's not as easy as that, is it? Just get out. But they have to go into shelters, and there's lots of very basic things that they don't have, like handbag. What would you do without? You do need a handbag at least. You don't need loads, maybe. I used to have loads of handbags, years ago, when I'd have a handbag to match everything. I don't bother with that now. But you need at least one, don't you? I've got one handbag that it sort of goes with everything, so I'm too lazy to buy lots of different handbags and keep swapping them over, because that's the problem for me. If you have a lot of different handbags, you can be sure that when I'm out, or maybe I want a poo bag for the dogs, and I'm thinking, this is not my handbag with poo bags in it. Damn, you've got to remember to keep changing things over, or keep, loads of poo bags in every single handbag. Do you understand what I mean? Your sunglasses are in the other handbag, or your keys, or your whatever. So it's a lot of, but one handbag definitely you need. So that's what we're going to have a look at, this charity, which I just think it's absolutely wonderful. Right, let me. So here it is. It's called Love Grace. And this is the website, Empowering Victims of Domestic Abuse in Honour of Grace Millane. that beautiful picture of Grace. Dear me. It's just heartbreaking. Heartbreaking that someone like that, someone like Twonky Jesse, robbed this girl, well, robbed her family of her and robbed her of her future and everything. And then tried to make it look like she'd, you know, practically begged for her own death. Disgusting. Let's have a look. Oh, if you can be anything, be kind. Now you know I'm going to cry here. But Love Grace, the handbag appeal, was set up by Grace's family and friends as a legacy in Grace Millane's name to help women that may have been affected by domestic violence. Since Grace's death, we've been raising money for the White Ribbon charities here in the UK and in New Zealand. The charities educate at a grassroots level and raise awareness of male violence towards women. We wanted to continue this legacy by providing practical support for women in need. So that's it, they need practical support. After seeing a social media post about filling a handbag to give to a homeless woman, we decided on a similar idea. We worked with our local women's refuge, Changing Pathways, to create a list of items that would be suitable for their clients. We set off with an initial target of 50 bags, but this has since been surpassed. Via people's generosity and offers of help, we've run appeals through the UK, New Zealand, USA, Canada and Singapore, and this has resulted in over 7,000 women receiving a Love Grace handbag. We've been overwhelmed by people's support and we were honoured to receive the Prime Minister's Point of Light Award. Support like this allows us to offer a small gift to more women and encourage them to believe in themselves as they matter. Sorry, it's making me cry. So anyone forced to change their behaviour because they're frightened of their partner or ex-partner's reaction is experiencing abuse. I love this logo as well, the little flower. And that must be Grace's writing. Domestic abuse can happen to anyone regardless of age, background, gender, religion, sexuality or ethnicity. And ain't that the truth? If you think, you know, people think that domestic abuse can't apply to them or to anyone they know or their family, their children, their sister, their brother, their mother, their father, it can apply to anyone. Anyone can become a victim of domestic abuse. Statistics do show that most domestic abuse is carried out by men and experienced by women. And domestic abuse is never the fault of the person who is experiencing it. Domestic abuse is a crime. So anyway, then it gives the free phone to the domestic abuse helpline. Find local support near you. How to cover your tracks online. That's interesting. Because, yeah, oh, my little dog's come to give me a cuddle because he's seen that I'm crying. Yeah, how to cook, you know, because you've got to be careful because if you go online, you know, thing is you don't want your abuser to find out you've been looking at things like this. So it goes on to tell you how to do private browsing. Please note that even if you delete your history from the browser, the search engine you use may keep a separate record of your searches. Gosh. Anyway, so that's very interesting. I can't go through it all, but it's interesting information if you are a person or you know somebody who may be, oh sorry, I forgot to share this tab. If you're a person who's experiencing domestic abuse or you think somebody you know is, it's worth looking at this. It goes into online banking, how to remove your search history, social media, mobile devices, vehicle trackers, fitness trackers and smartwatches. There's different guides how to change the settings for Strava, Garmin, Fitbit, Apple Watch. You know, it's so difficult to not leave a trail these days. And it's good in some ways because, of course, that's how Twonky Jesse got caught, wasn't it? Because of his trail that he left. But, of course, it can be negative because if somebody's trying to follow what you're doing, yeah. Gosh. So a lot of useful information on there. As I say, too much for me to, I can't go through all of it. But there was another thing that I wanted. Oh, there's a forum, Survivors Forum. Is this has gone to Women's Aid now, is it? Yeah, it directed them. Directed to the Women's Aid. Now we go back to, oh, I think I've switched it off now. Hang on. We'll go back to Grace's, to the Grace Charity website. It's awful that you have to think about all that, but I know because, you know, those of you who know me, you'll know that I was stalked by an ex-partner, and luckily for me, thank God, we hadn't gone into this technological age yet, but he did well enough at stalking me without all this information. You know, there's nothing you can't put anything past someone who's obsessional and trying to find out what you're doing, etc. You literally cannot ever presume that, oh, they won't do that. They will because it's obsession. Okay, so the other thing I just wanted to show you is how to donate. So many different ways to donate to Love Grace. You can donate handbags. You can run your own appeal or set up a drop-off point, or they have an Amazon wish list. Now, let's have a look at what to donate. Now, this is so interesting because, you know, this is things you just don't think about. You know, they must have done like some research into what people will find useful in a handbag: toothpaste, toothbrush, shower gel, shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, wipes, tissues, plasters, soap or hand gel, lip balm, cotton buds, face cloth or sponge, a torch, a hairbrush or a comb, and luxuries, makeup, perfume, hairband, clips, gloves, scarf, notebook and pen, playing cards, purse, sunglasses and jewellery. It's interesting, isn't it, how they've come to this sort of conclusion, but that's interesting. Do not include sharp items, I can see, but I wonder why not sanitary products. I can understand the painkillers because they might worry that, you know, they take an overdose. Razors, alcohol, money, food, contraceptives, or opened or damaged products I can go with. But I'm surprised about the sanitary products because sanitary products are essential for women, aren't they? And no, they're expensive. It says to find out why, reader frequently asks, why can't I? You just knew that was going to be the first question. Why can't I donate sanitary items? So the Women's Refuge we worked with to set up our appeal receive a lot of sanitary products direct from the supplier. They can also be seen as a trigger for some women. Therefore, we've decided to refrain from collecting them for this particular project. If you wish to donate these items directly to your refuge, you can do so. It's interesting, isn't it? Where do the bags go? The bags are donated directly to women's refuges, who then distribute them to women staying in their accommodation. Bags are also kept at local hospitals and given to women who have been admitted due to domestic violence, have no possessions, and are unable to return home. And the size of the bag, roughly 30 centimetres. Can I donate money? we cannot accept money because we're a charitable initiative rather than a registered charity. But you can buy, oh, there was an Amazon wish list. Is it not? Is it only in the UK? No, not at all. New Zealand, USA, Canada and Singapore. And then the drop-off points are on the donate page. Let's have a look. Yeah. Drop-off points. Oh, look, there's a lot in the UK, isn't there? So if you want to help in that, look at all, really, there's drop-off points everywhere there, isn't there? In most parts of the UK anyway. So, yeah. Well, I do so like to see something positive come out of terrible things that happen. And, you know, of course, it would have been better if Grace would never have been murdered. But the thing is, turning a negative into a positive is a very important thing for the family. Now, I'm just going to show you a couple of Instagram pages. Just let you know what Grace's mum is up to. So, apparently she's going to climb Mount Everest. The mother of slain British backpacker Grace Millane is set to trek the world's highest mountain as she continues to raise awareness of men's violence against women. So, you know, this Gillian, she's a bit of a warrior, isn't she? She lost her daughter, she's lost her husband, and now she's climbing Mount Everest for awareness. So apparently she climbed already Mount Kilimanjaro. This was August. This post was made. Next month she's tackling Mount Everest. Gillian Millane knows she will never be the same person she was before Grace was murdered. Without her beautiful daughter in her life, it's simply not possible, but she's trying to rebuild herself and save as many other women and girls as she can along the way. It's just, honestly, these people, they're just so, they just make you humble, don't they? You know, you sort of whinge about little things. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me, you know, all the little things that you whinge about. And then, you know, these people are an example to us all. So, Gillian still finds it hard to speak about her immeasurable loss. She remembers her daughter and husband with a smile on my face and is channeling all of her grief into helping others. Speaking out is incredibly difficult, but if it raises awareness and helps people understand how much of an issue male violence against women and girls is, then I will keep doing it. We're trying to turn our negative into a positive for others. Well, I think you're doing a brilliant job of that. I do think you're doing a brilliant job of it. Okay, and then the last thing I want to show you is Grace's Instagram, which is still up there. And I just found that by accident while I was looking for that post about her mum. You know, I think that she may have had a short life. But you know what? I think she made the most of it. That's the only comfort, I suppose. And her story just speaks to everybody, doesn't it? So it's a warning, you know, be careful who you meet online. But also, you know, you've got to live your best life. It can't stop you. You know, Grace did live her best life. You know, she went out. She looks like she had a positive effect on so many people. So beautiful. Oh, take me back to drunken nights at uni, please. Just a typical young girl. Beautiful. May your Friday sparkle, she's saying there. 323 weeks ago. With the family. She looks like a real sort of family girl. You know, they all seem to get on so well. Went to see Ed Sheeran. Looking forward to my next adventure. We didn't realise we were making memories. We just knew we were having fun. Oh. Well, I hope you did have fun, Grace. Looks like you did. That's good. That's good. Got a smile on every photo. It's the University of Lincoln, where she went. Oh. So beautiful as well. Yeah, I hope she's with her dad. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. So the thing is, this is the family, an accurate representation of how I spent my 21st. Good, I hope you had a good time. That's a beautiful photo. They're all beautiful photos. I mean, she's very photogenic. Just so Halloween. Yeah. Gosh. Well, she never got a chance to have children of her own, unfortunately. God, when I think about that, Jesse saying, oh, he wasn't sure if she'd be who she said she was, etc. God. Anyway, there's quite a lot of photos on there, but I hope her family don't mind me showing the photos. You know, as I say, it's still up there. The Instagram's still up there. Maybe they don't know how to take it down, or maybe they don't want to. You know, it's part of, you know, they don't want to pretend she never existed, do they? You know, that's part of her life, and it's up there. It's a memory of her, isn't it? Okay, so that's part 2 of the very sad story of Grace Millane, but some positivity at the end of it, which is good. You know, the charity Love Grace. Have a look at the website if you want to donate. If you go, actually, what I meant to show as well was the Amazon wish list. There's things for all prices, you know, from as little as $1.99, you know, to more expensive things. So I think there is a price for everybody's budget to help out there. Okay, so I'm going to play out with some music, a photo of Grace, but also remember the poem that we looked at in the first part of this. I want to show that poem because I do think it's important, this, for anybody who's got a young adult child, like Grace was, 22, an adult, but, you know, if you've got children of that age, I've got a child older than that, still think of them as being children because they're your children forever. But according to this poem, they're not your children, of course. They are, but you can't. What I'm trying to say is, I'm going to read this poem out. You cannot. How can I put it? You've got to let them go. Grace was living her best life. She'd been to university. She was traveling around the world. And you have to let them go. And unfortunately, sometimes they do come to foul play. They meet up with people like Jesse the Twonk. But you know what? You have to let your children go and do whatever it is they want to do. And I've got so many friends and students whose, young adult children have gone off to live. Well, they've started off traveling and then they've met someone in maybe Australia or New Zealand or, and they've settled down in those far-flung countries. And, my friends or students, they have just had to accept that they're living that far away from them. It's hard, isn't it? Not so bad these days because we've got the internet. We can do Zoom calls, Skype, etc. Years ago, you just never would have seen them, would you? Your grandchildren, etc. But we have to let our children go. They don't belong to us. We have that very short period of time that you don't realise is so short when they're young, and they do sort of belong to us in a way because we have to look after them. They can't do things independently. And I think quite often we think, when they're older, they'll be doing this, they'll be doing that. And you don't realise that it doesn't get easier, it gets harder, because then you don't know what they're doing. They go out, are they safe? Even locally, never mind, going off to a foreign country, miles away. You just don't know when they go out with their friends. So you've always got to show you love them, because as soon as they walk out that door, just the way of the world, you don't know. I don't want to frighten people. There's so many things that can go wrong, but it doesn't matter because they've got to live their life, make their own mistakes. I did it. I went off. I understand more now about how my mum and dad felt when I went to live in Reading, which you thought I was going off to the ends of the earth, going to live in Reading. The way they was, oh my, you're going so far away from us. I was like, it's only Reading. But and then, of course, when I came to Spain, that was like, I might as well be going to Borneo or somewhere, for my parents, because my parents were not travellers. I understand that a lot more now. And although you want the best for your children, it's hard sometimes to let them go and be themselves. Okay. So, till I see you again, may your God always go with you. As sons and daughters of life longing for itself, through you, but not from you. And though they are with you yet, they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. you.